Welcome to Wine Time Mysteries, where we talk about true crime, the paranormal, mysteries, and cryptozoology with a dash of comedy. This podcast contains adult themes and is intended for mature audiences only. Don't forget to click follow and tickle that little notification bell. Now, find a comfy spot. We're about to start today's episode.
My case today is actually going to be my first two-parter.
Get out of town.
Look at me go. I have a two-parter. I just felt there was way too much to this story and I just wanted to add it all in, really. So trigger warnings for part one involve a lot of rape. A lot of rape. So just FYI, if triggered, don't probably listen to this episode at all.
Also, a message to you old rapers out there.
Yeah.
Maybe stop raping people.
Don't rape people, please.
Thank you.
By part two, you will see more rape, bestiality, and murder. So it's got a bit of everything.
You missed that out in the message to me today. You didn't say bestiality.
Well, why would I write that? Well, it's not in part one, so...
Yeah, but you said, warning, lots of the R word in part one, and then there's murder in part two. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there's a bit of animal fucking. For this case, I read a book called Things a Killer Would Know by Paula Donovan. Now, Paula was a Queensland crime and investigative reporter who covered this story from the beginning and worked closely with the detective team on the case. So she knows a thing or two and it's very detailed. So if you want to find out more about this case, definitely read the book. It's really, really good. So I'm going to start right now. I am, yeah. Leonard...
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Leonard John Fraser. Does that name ring a bell for you at all? No? Okay.
Should it?
No, actually he wouldn't have been in Australia then. Anyway, that's fine. He was born 27th of June, 1951. Another cancer.
Oh, it's an old cunt.
Yeah. In a sugar town called Ingham, Sugar Tits in Ingham, which is located in northern Queensland, Australia.
Like Ingham chicken?
I think so. He was one of 5 children. Now, unfortunately, when Leonard was 1, his older brother, who was 3 at the time, passed away in a horrific accident involving a grader, which is a type of heavy machinery, while at work with his father. Leonard would be described as throwing a few tantrums as a child and would also have mini rage-filled outbursts. And your face says you want to know more, but you don't want to know more.
Yep. And then I went to ground beef and I was like, oh.
I think it was more shaking and he fell off and then it was the rear tyre. Yeah, it was just, not a good time. I was like, I didn't want to go into detail, but that's fine. Oh, don't go in the hole. The family moved around a lot, so he was always the new kid at school and he began stealing as a child, which would then escalate. By 15, he was stealing people's gearboxes out of their frickin' cars. Can you say Australia?
Yeah.
Oh, these kids stole my gearbox!
What is a kid gonna do with the gearbox?
I don't know. I don't know whether it was to, like, break it down and sell or... I don't know, just running around, I don't know.
If you have ever... Mechanics.
Yeah.
Tell me, what would a 15... You said 15?
Yeah.
What would a 15-year-old need with a gearbox and what can they do with it? Is it valuable?
Drugs. They grind it up.
And sniff
and
it. Ouch.
By this time, he also now started to threaten girls by saying he would rape them. And he also began running away to different states. It was just a very...
Well, I think the idea is you don't tell them you're going to do it. You just do it.
I don't know.
Not that you do it. You don't just do it. Don't rape people. But
don't do it.
That just seems... Moving on swiftly.
This guy's a very... this case will get you. Due to his behaviour escalating, law enforcement would suggest sending him to a boys' home to help straighten him out. And, of course, we know, and by your face, a lot of these schools would only enforce and escalate people who were already out of control. So with older kids raping the young and the weaker kids, and it was just a cycle of rape or be raped, pretty much. You can't laugh. I love you. What are we going to laugh at?
Rape or be raped. No, that's the kind of Hunger Games it's not.
I love you.
Oh, it's so bad.
There are a few reports that Leonard would be raped and would end up raping in these homes as well. He ended up doing 2 stints in the boys' home, and each time he would come out just worse than what he was going in. But this time he was sexually more aggressive. He came in rapey. Yeah.
This is not a good time to laugh, Joseph. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Bloody hell.
His mother felt like he had a split personality, as he could be so caring as well, and just felt like he could go from one extreme to the next. Leonard would be diagnosed later in life as having...
A rapist?
Yeah. Yeah. As having classic psychopathic behaviour, and soon you'll be saying no shit as we dive into this. So Leonard would obviously start down the petty crime path. So I'm just going to go through some of these, as reading up on this case, it really points out how much the system failed yet again on this. Like, I know given the time, but he just escalated and kept escalating. Like, every time he got out of jail, he just straight back into it again. Like, it was just, didn't matter. December 1968, when Leonard was 17, he assaulted a railway station attendant and was placed on probation until he was 19. 1970, he was charged and fined for driving without a license. Not longer after that happened, he was fined $20 for street fighting. I was like, oh, only $20, but back then it would have been like $138, which is still cheap, but yeah. Now, also around this time, given his nature already and the anger brewing, he became a guard as such for some prostitutes working in King's Cross, as he was now living in Sydney, New South Wales.
You say guard, you mean pimp?
Yeah, pretty much. But I can't remember the word she used.
Pimp daddy?
Yeah, but he was just like, well, beat these people up and protect you, because that's perfect profile for him. Rage filled.
A prosy guard.
Yeah, prosy guard. Now, I didn't really describe what Leonard looked like, and I want to give a credit to True Crime Island. He did an episode on Leonard and commented that he had a head like a smashed crab. And boy, did he ever. I was like, yes, I'm stealing that, thank you. He was 5'9", had a lot of strength in the upper body. Like, you'll see some photos later on, like his back looked very like, he just looked like a predator, pretty much. Like, I'll show you photos later. As Paula would describe him as having a menacing presence, and victims would later say you could see veins bulging in his neck. And apparently after he would attack people, his face would go really red as well, like he'd get like these red lines. They arrested him after he'd pretty much done something, which will be in part 2, and he was still like fresh red face, so it was just like February 1971, Leonard was jailed for stealing a car. He would only serve 6 months before being released. He wanted to move to Queensland for a fresh start, but he approached it all wrong because he stole a car to get there with his mates after just getting out of jail for stealing a car. You fucking idiot. So did another 9 months in jail, this time in Townsville, and he also robbed a servo. So he kind of stolen car, robbing a servo, went to jail. After being released, he went back to New South Wales and resumed his guard role down at King's Cross. Now, trigger warning, as things are going to start escalating pretty quickly. Ooh. Yeah. So noise. 17th of October, 1972. 21-year-old Leonard had an argument with his roommate. Now, being full of rage, he stormed off to the Botanical Gardens in Sydney.
Where he raped someone.
Yeah, literally.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Not knowing the monster she was about to run into, a French tourist who was a 37-year-old mother of 2 would unfortunately stop Leonard to ask for directions. He would end up pointing to a path for her to follow, as apparently he couldn't understand her. As she headed down the path, Leonard would grab her from behind, beat her, and then would drag her to a nearby tree where he would rape her. The attack was so vicious that the victim was no longer able to have children again. Yeah, pretty bad. Before running off, he would steal all of $14 from her purse, leaving behind a thong or a plugger or a shoe, whatever you want to call it, and a handkerchief at the crime scene. Yeah.
It's probably good you explained that for our non-Australian listeners.
Yeah, that's why I was like, a thong. No, not a G-string.
They won't know a plugger either.
No.
A flip-flop.
Not a plugger? Flip-flop? Is that what they... Oh, whatever.
Well, in New Zealand they say jandals.
No, I don't like
I
that.
don't say that word.
No, thank you. No. 2 months later, on 4th of December, Leonard would be jailed for 5 years for a completely unrelated crime and would once again end up getting out early. I think it was theft or something like that, so he didn't get caught for the rape. 1974, not even 3 weeks after being released from jail, he raped another woman by stalking her and dragging her to an embankment. This was just so effed up that after raping her, he forced her to hold his hand and walk with him for a bit before he ran off. So I think it was like more like a beach they were at, because he stalked a lot of his victims. July 1974, a few weeks after his last victim, he was walking near the Great Western Shopping Centre in Mount Druitt, where he noticed a woman working alone at a dry cleaner's. He pretended to be picking up his dry cleaning and would follow her into the back room, bending her arm up behind her and forcing her onto the floor. Thank goodness he was unable to rape her, as some customers came in and he fled.
Thank fuck, man.
Yeah. 3 days later, he was obviously just filled with rage of not being able to rape the woman that he had found earlier. He found another woman walking along a street. He approached her, spoke to her for a second, and then punched her in the face. You'll soon see his signature move is like a king hit or punch from behind. Like, that's just what he did to everyone pretty much. She put up a really good fight, and as he was removing his clothing, she somehow was able to convince him to go back to her house. She put up a really good fight, and as he was removing his clothing, she somehow was able to convince him to go back to her house so that they could have sex. Thank God the idiot fell for it and she was able to escape, alerting a nearby house. This idiot, in all the confusion and panic of running away, dropped his wallet that contained his frickin' birth certificate. I shit you not. Which is good. Like,
I was gonna say,
yeah,
good,
it's a good thing, but you fucking idiot.
You are so dumb.
Yeah. He was obviously arrested, went to court where he represented himself, and I know, I always
Because
love
that ends well.
it. Always goes well. I love it. And was sentenced to 21 years. Now, after all of the shit I have spoken about and how much he's now escalating, want to take a guess at how long of the 21-year sentence he actually served?
Okay, well, considering he has been let out early other times, I'm going to guess it was on good behaviour.
No.
Sentencing the first times?
Yeah.
Probably.
I think so,
maybe.
yeah.
I'm going to say out of that 21 years, he would have served less than a quarter of that.
Yeah. It's a quarter of 21. Just give me a number. 1 + 1 is 5. 7 years. So pretty much what you're saying. 7 freaking years is all that he served for that crime. Leave me alone. I'm quick maths. Even though he was diagnosed, as I said earlier, as a psychopath, he was still released. So many reports of them saying he won't change, he's going to kill someone, he's going to do it again. He was still freaking let out, like even with all of that. He earned nicknames like Lenny the Loon because he would just lose his shit randomly. Now, funny thing is, the reason he was released was actually sealed. Broken system, much. So no one actually knows how he got out or why he got out because they sealed it. So even though all the guards were like, nah, he's going to do it again, they kept denying his bail. They were like, nah, he's just, yeah, they still let him out.
He must have known something.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, ridiculous. On leaving jail, he returned to his parents' house where they were now living in Hay Point, Queensland. He straight away started up with his bullshit and even pretended he was interested in a woman's car that she had for sale just to prove that he could rape her while her husband was home. He didn't, thank God. Like, he literally hit her, pinned her down, and he was like, look, your husband's home and I can still rape you, kind of thing. 1982, he befriended a woman by the name of Pearl Rigby. She was a 26-year-old single mother and would end up being the only stable part of Leonard's life. They had a daughter together. He was working at Queensland Rail as like a foreman and earned the nickname Animal because of his parting ways. Partying ways. He apparently wasn't abusive in the relationship, and I mean he was, but not what he had been. Apparently he'd only slapped Pearl on one occasion.
Oh.
Just that one time.
He only slapped her once.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, look, compared to his other stuff.
Compared to like raping and punching people and knocking them out, maybe he really loved her.
It was just a slap. Just a little slap. 1985, while he was still with Pearl, he stalked and raped another woman at a beach at Shell Point. Whilst putting up a fight, she tried to convince Leonard to go back to her house. He had been fooled before and didn't take the bait, unfortunately, this time. After raping the woman, he ran off and stopped into a friend's place, obviously hoping to get an alibi or some shit. The friend he visited noticed how red his face was, how on edge he seemed as he sat and had tea with them. It wouldn't be long before officers were knocking at Leonard's door, and Pearl would soon find out the truth about her de facto partner. He would be sentenced to 12 years and would serve all besides a few weeks, surprisingly, of that sentence. During this stint in jail, a psychologist expressed that Fraser had no hesitation for killing people who had set him up in the past, and described him as a low intelligent man who was dangerous. He also said that Leonard was unpredictable with poorly controlled anger, perfect recipe for a rapist or murderer. They also labelled him untreatable, but still let him out after the 12 years. I forgot to mention, although given his history, he was still able to freely walk around the prison, which had like houses and nearby farms and women and children. Like, it's just so messed up. You need to read the book.
Nah.
No, it's not a good time.
Because it'll just make me mad.
Yeah, it's just not a good time. It's very informative, but just not a good time.
No.
7th of January, 1997, Leonard left Rockhampton Esner Creek Jail and moved in with a woman. 7th of January, 1997, Leonard left Rockhampton Esner Creek Jail and moved in with a woman who he met through a prison pen pal kind of thing by the name of Marie Shivers. She thought Fraser was a good man and was just getting screwed by the system. He was also a compulsive liar, so who knows what he had actually told her.
Not the truth.
Yeah. Marie was diagnosed with cancer and was starting to go downhill pretty quick. This didn't stop Leonard abusing her, with her own mother, Vera, confronting Fraser outside of a local Woolies Woolworths after seeing bruises on Marie. Leonard made a comment along the lines of, "If we weren't in public, I would slit your throat." Marie would start to travel to Brisbane, attending the Holy Spirit Hospital on Wickham Terrace, where she would be diagnosed as terminally ill and would be hospitalised. Leonard was furious that she wasn't returning home and hitchhiked to Brisbane as he wasn't going to lose her to cancer.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, it is sweat. While visiting her, he walked Marie to the hospital chapel where he would end up raping her. He even made the comment of, "It wasn't rape. Like, I'm sorry, just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean it's not rape. She's terminally ill of cancer. I don't think she wants your dick."
She's dying.
Yeah, she don't want your dick.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Marie's friends were so onto Leonard, like not liking him one bit, as one time Marie mentioned something weird. She said if she ever went missing, it would be because she went on long walks and would die of natural causes and not because Leonard killed me. If you've got to say that your partner's, like, not going to kill you, he gonna kill you. June 1997, 2 weeks after the rape, Marie unfortunately passed away, but in the days before her death, she would end up confiding in her mother and social worker about the rape and that she never told the police or hospital staff. After Marie's passing, Leonard would then move in with a former cell block mate, Christopher Turner, in Yeppoon after running into him on the beach. Things went okay for a bit until one night Fraser was asleep on the veranda and Turner had turned on the TV and woke him up. Boo-hoo. Leonard woke up shouting at Turner and walking past him, he king hit him. I just had to add this in because it was the most Aussiest, recollection I could ever think of. He goes, "He lifted me off the bloody chair. The chair and all my tucker went everywhere. Rah, rah, rah." He actually said
tucker.
rah, rah, rah. I told him, "Pack your fucking ports and get out. I don't give a shit where you go. Piss off." Turner also thought Leonard wasn't all there, stating he was bloody loose up top, probably 3/4 of a loaf of bread short of a picnic.
I like this guy.
Yeah. Turner then left the apartment to visit an upstairs friend. Knowing what Fraser was like, he just wanted to give him some space to cool down. While at his friend's, there was a knock at the door, to which when opened, Leonard's fist came through and punched Turner in the face yet again, saying, "That's for good measure." All I could picture was just a Like, I'm not laughing at him getting punched, but it's just this guy's psychotic. Leonard would then head to Mount Morgan, a small rural town southwest of Rockhampton, where he wreaked havoc for about 11 months before eventually getting run out of town by residents, as police had no formal complaints, but the sheriff at the time believed he had raped up to 16 females while there. Now, unfortunately, this is where we're going to end for part 1.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten into all the
nitty-gritty.
Yeah, the escalated stuff. So that's part 1. This case is just, he's like a serial rapist, and we'll soon find out in part 2, a murderer, and fucks animals as well.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. The face says it all. On that note, my mung beans, peace out. See you for part 2.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm sure they're all going to be so excited for it.